Spotify Wrapped just released, which everybody looks forward to at the end of every year. Spotify Wrapped is on the app Spotify to listen to music. It goes over the total amount of time you listen to music, who your top 5 artists were, who your top 5 songs were, your favorite genres. And it's really entertaining to see how that changes every year. So, given that trend, I wanted to talk very briefly about the psychology of music. And so, to go into that, first, I'm just going to tell you a quick story about me in high school. So, in high school, guitar music and heavy metal, rock, punk were still on the radio, especially, Christian heavy metal, which was really popular from, I think, 2005 to about 2013. The radio, of course, was a lot more diversified then instead of what it is today, where it's mostly just kind of generally pop. But I didn't like the music on the radio. For whatever reason, I was really burnt out on anything with a guitar. So I developed my own kind of music taste and music sense throughout those years. But my best friend actually loved what was on the radio, and he loved guitar music. Anytime I was with him, I had to listen to what he was listening to. And, that would be things like Skillet, for example, which is a Christian rock band. It would be, a Thousand Foot Crutch, music like that, if that kind of tells you the general genre of music my friend Christian would listen to. And I could not stand it, but I listened to it anyway. Well, now when I listen to that music, I actually like it quite a deal. And besides getting over the fact that for some reason I just didn't like guitar music at all the time, now I do listen to some of that very similar music. I enjoyed it because it reminded me of my times in high school and my times with my best friend, and it made me think of him and all the fun interactions that we had. So the question is, did I actually like the music itself, or did I like what the music reminded me of, which made me like the song? Did it put me, the music itself, in a good mood? Kind of thinking nostalgia about the good times in high school, and what else was the music kind of doing to me psychologically? I'll give you one more example. Is I will often listen to goofy music. I have a lot of, and when I say goofy, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know if it's classified as music, but there are some genres of music which are just hilarious to listen to, and they're meant to be funny. And you listen to them and you're like, this is so awful, it's hilarious. But because you're laughing and because you're enjoying kind of the ridiculousness of that music at that time, depending on the people that you're around, I actually started developing a taste for it. And so now if I were to listen to it, I really wouldn't mind it all that much. So that really got me thinking about the very basic psychological effects of music, specifically Pavlov's dog. Everyone knows that experiment. Of course, you ring the bell, you give the dog food. After a while, when you ring the bell, even without food, the dog salivates because it's a signal that food is coming. Music is exactly the same way. When you hear certain songs, even subconsciously, they will remind you of certain experiences in certain times in your life, whether good, bad, or neither. And that's why music is incredibly important. And your Spotify Wrapped, or if you have music, iTunes Music, I think they give you something similar to Spotify Wrapped now. That's why they kind of give you those synopses at the end of every year, because it's almost a satisfactory way of going through, oh, yeah, I remember how this song reminded me of this time, et cetera, et cetera. But where it gets interesting is when you start to realize that basic principle, you start to see how music is played everywhere and for what purpose and for what reason. So, for example, you go to the grocery store, what music are they playing? It's a combination of basic pop songs, but a lot of them are still kind of 80s, 90s, because who are the majority of the people shopping? They're older people, right? And so that's all catered to enjoying your experience there. What's funny is sometimes you don't even realize that a grocery store is playing music until you stop and pause and you go, oh, wait, they're playing a song. And hey, actually, I like this song. And you can relate it to your own friend circles, just how I've done in my previous 2 stories. There are songs that I enjoy that I play that when I'm in control of the radio, I make sure that my friends are listening so that I know when I bring that song up again, whether they like it or not, hopefully it reminds them of good times. Politicians use this. You see this quite often with Republicans and Democrats. It's never a coincidence when they're playing certain music, when they're coming up out on stage. That music has psychology behind it. Sometimes it might be a song that's very popular in the state that they're in. It might be popular with the demographic that they are speaking to at that time. It's all coordinated and it's all planned. So, where does this get interesting and some of our implications? Well, the one thing that I want you to watch out for is we're continuously in a world of algorithms. And so, specifically, let me use Spotify once again for an example. Spotify has a radio section. In that radio section, and they also have an added feature now where Spotify will input songs in your playlist if you so choose. Spotify can measure what type of music that you like, and its algorithms can predict what type of music based on the beats per minute, or maybe what instruments are being used, or what type of synthesizer techniques are being used, you might also like. And if that's the case, then Spotify can assume a few things about you, and they can start to plant certain songs that aren't just random, but are planned to be there in your playlist so that you get hooked on an artist. In fact, that's pretty much the basic model of what radio was before we had streaming services for music. There's a reason that a lot of music was played over the radio every hour. It was like cycling through the exact same songs because the hope was that while you're driving in your car, a song, not just that a song that you like comes on and that you stay on the radio station, but that you hear that song in your daily life and associate it with good things. That way, they create a lifelong customer of you liking a certain brand. That's more often than not the psychology behind radio. It's the same reason we have 24-hour news. 24-hour news isn't necessarily about keeping you informed, and they don't play it 24 hours so that anytime you turn on the TV, you can actually be informed, but it's programming you for what to expect and what might be next. So you really have to watch out as we become an ever increasingly algorithmized world, if that's even a word, because this stuff will be planned and will be put in your life. I think the number one example, and I can't prove any of this, of course, but would be something like a Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift comes out with a new album and it pops to the top of the charts. Does it actually pop to the top of the charts? Or does Spotify and other music people put it there because they know if it's a chart number one, people will then listen to it? And if people will then listen to Taylor Swift, how much money does that generate to her concerts? That generates a lot of money to her concerts. More people, more eyes, more good times associated with Taylor Swift. Now, does Taylor Swift herself become a political figure? So, what if Taylor Swift starts becoming more politically active? She did in 2020, when she came out and was mostly a supporter for the Democratic Party after kind of staying away from politics for quite some time. But now you see her dating, NFL players, and who knows? I'm sure that won't last long. But now, that NFL, player also does his own promotions, so you have association by identity, and it may even be a way for Taylor Swift fans to then get into football, right? And hopefully, maybe that's an NFL strategy to try to get more fans interested in what's going on by creating drama between potentially what could be a planned artist and then relating that to other things that are other money vehicles. So hopefully you see how music, which for me personally is a very important part of my life. I love music. I spend hours on end looking for new music. I like hunt for it, or it hunts for me, depending on what you believe that relationship is. I love when music kind of just finds you. But I really love music, and every time I listen to music, it definitely is associated with a certain point in my life. And I'm always finding new songs. And so as time moves on, I can relate different songs to different periods in my life. I'm never stagnant in my search for music. So, with that being said, when you're listening to music, next time it's with a friend, or it's in someone's car, or it's at the grocery store, or something just popped up on your Spotify algorithm that you just start listening to and that you like, know that it's not always an accident. Sometimes this stuff really can be planned and it can be used to induce emotions with you. And we all kind of know that, but we don't always step back and think about the big picture. Think about how corporations, politicians, media in general could be being used to play with our emotions.